welcome to O.H.N. Nostalgia, your favorite
monthly paranormal podcast that you can find on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Make sure to leave a 5-star review or a thumbs up, and follow us on Our Haunted Pod on all of our socials. And we're hosted by Linda this time, apparently. You want to take the role?
Show,
Guest
Elias.
host.
Is this your first time on the recording?
Unfortunately, it is. I can't believe I'm caught with my pants down without a script. Do you want to take over for this one?
Yes. So today's episode is going to be about the creation of a really interesting digital. Okay, so just as a small note, I was waiting for you to pass me the script, and then you did it, and then you, in a very like Lord of the Rings moment, just did like the no, and you turned your computer back and left me fucking hanging. We're talking about a cryptid in a black box. What do you think of that, Adam?
Like airplane black box?
Like, no, that's
is that how airplane black boxes work?
No, I specified that it wasn't that because
So you knew where I was going.
AI generation is a black box.
No, that was the point I was trying to make, because this stuff launched a couple of years ago and so far has completely swarmed the entire planet. And one of the reasons why I thought this would be interesting is because we're only going to get more of these, I think, especially once we start nearing stuff that starts mimicking people to the extent that, like, we're already getting AI videos that are tricking me. We're not going to be a couple more years out before it's going to be impossible for the average person. And not even, probably even experts are going to struggle.
We're just probably going to have AI do this recording.
The way large language models work, and the reason why I call this a cryptid in a black box, is because these models don't function in a way that we can comprehend. And whenever I listen to somebody who understands AI talk about how AI generates its answers, they don't seemingly understand it, because the AI models are trained off of a source material, usually the entirety of the internet and then more some, which is why new AI models have to come out consistently. They have to retrain them on something meaningful. But once you give an AI a prompt, the prompt literally disappears into the vacuum that is the large language model. And then nobody on our end can look into that and figure out why the AI put that picture, the sentence, anything together, right? And I'm sure you guys have experienced this, where you're just trying to get an AI to react or generate something in the way that you expect it to, and it just won't.
You ever ask AI to generate an image of a bowl of fruit salad?
No, why?
If you go on and ask AI to generate an image of a fruit salad, the weird thing is the selection of fruits is way different from what you would expect.
It's just like uncut watermelon.
I'm imagining like grapes.
I would say
orange.
you should. I mean, just type it in, and maybe you'll find it. But usually, you'll be surprised at the fruits that are included. You're not going to be like, "Oh, there's a random cheeseburger in my fruit salad." It's not like that. You're just like, this is as if a fruit salad from someone who's never eaten before. It's like, here's your fruit salad. You're like, you're technically correct.
These are all technically fruits, but this is not
like,
the...
We made a fruit salad out of cantaloupe, tomatoes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm looking at this. So there's. I just found one. There's 3 whole lemons,
uncut, just whole ass lemons.
2 full pineapples.
But that's it's still technically.
They're all fruits.
Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, 2 full pineapples, 1 full orange unpeeled, a batch of grapes, a couple of loose blueberries, and then just some long orange fruit that I don't know. It looks like a banana, but it's orange. But that's to your point. That's what I mean by it is a black box. You could not reverse engineer and figure out why the AI put this image together in the way it did. In the same way, and this is gonna, I don't know, I'm sure people have thought about it like this just because of how entrenched AI is in our popular culture. But the black boxes of AI is a lot like the black box of our consciousness, right? And that we know it exists, we know it functions, we know it gives us the results we need. We don't necessarily understand how consciousness works. In the same way, we don't understand why large language models or I don't remember the term, but the versions that generate images.
Isn't it just generative AI?
Generative AI. We don't understand why it generates things the way it does. We just know it does. Gotcha. Which is why you've been seeing a lot of people more recently poking fun at the fact that AI, for some reason, is making all of its images more yellow.
Yeah.
And that's because AI images have just been feeding in on themselves, and something in that black box is picking up that yellow tinge, and nobody knows how to get rid of it. These AI generated models, though, when do you guys remember them first popping up? Because I have vivid memories of early 2021, I want to say, before ChatGPT really made the rounds and stuff like that. People were playing with like open.
I only remember, it's like revisionist almost, because I see it compared all the time, is the Will Smith eating spaghetti video.
Early 2022 is when like large-scale consumer AI models started becoming available, and that's when ChatGPT hit the market. Okay, and September of 2022 is when we created the first artificially intelligent cryptid, LOAB. Okay, so this story.
But you just really quick, you feel like that was the first time that you noticed it? I feel like we've had like weird interactions with AI far before this huge AI.
That's something I was going to bring up at a later point, is like at what point is something classified as AI? Because technically, like, video games have had AI
for however long,
since fucking Pong, the guy controlling the other, controller, whatever you want to call it. So there's been like AI in different forms for a very long time, but you're specifically talking about generative.
I'm talking
AI.
about large language models.
Okay.
So the kinds of AIs, I'm talking ChatGPT, Claude, Grok.
Okay, the example I was going to give was do you remember Akinator from the 2000s?
Oh,
like for me,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
like when you say like, oh, having this thing that feels like it has an intelligence. I remember
Right.
going on that website and being like, I'm going to think of something impossible.
If you want to think about it, Akinator kind of is like the granddaddy
Of
of
large
those
language
types of
models.
things. Yeah, basically using a bunch of user-generated inputs to cultivate a database to discern and
what you're
guess.
doing.
Yeah. I mean, really, Akinator is early AI. You think of a character, it asks you a bunch of questions, and it's scary accurate. It's like, and this was like, I remember that shit in like what, middle school?
Yeah. So the
This
whole
was like
thing is,
mid 2000s.
20 questions, the game 20 questions. You play 20 questions against this thing. Akinator is like a genie.
It's like a genie. Yeah.
And the whole point is Akinator is trying to guess what character you're thinking of in as few questions as possible, but it only gets one try. So it'll start and it'll ask you like one question, and then it will ask you like a super general question like, is your character alive or dead? You'll be like, alive. Then it will ask you a second question like, does your character enjoy Tangelos? You'll be like, yeah, that's a weirdly specific. And then you'll be like, does your character have an eye patch? And you're like, holy shit, yes. And then guess 4 is already correct. Like it's a fun thing I remember
I'm
doing
curious
in
what
school.
I'm curious what that looks like under the hood, because we've all, and this is going to sound so stupid.
It still exists if you want to look
You
it
could-
up.
I'm
Yeah,
talking.
you
I'm
could totally
talking about
look
the
it up.
mechanics of it.
Oh, gotcha.
Because I'm sure all of us have experienced something like we've all used autocorrect, right? And
Another example.
the way I've heard large language models explained to me is it's basically autocorrect if it was like a divine being. It's like if God were autocorrect, where all autocorrect is doing is trying to surmise your best typing habits as best it can to assume what you might want to type afterwards. Because like, what would be the most common word to follow the word the? It's going to take its best freaking stab at it. But
Right.
once you've typed for a year, it'll know the specific word that
What
you
you
follow.
tend to do, yeah.
It's important to remember too, like before Gemini became quite popular, they were user testing a lot of that same technology. Just if you use Gmail, for example, like people weren't really considering the fact that like, oh, when they were typing an email, there was all this predictive analytics where you could just, instead of having to type the rest of your sentence, you could just press tab for every word that was accurate. All of that sort of stuff was a precursor to them just fully being like, you can just give a prompt now and we'll produce something. In my opinion, I saw a lot of that stuff too.
Yep.
Microsoft Word, Google Docs. Like if you use like iOS, for example, and you're on the Mail app and you start like typing a message, you could pretty quickly find that like the sentence will complete itself, and you can just simply swipe to the end if it's a
close approximation to what you wanted to
right?
say.
So,
I'm genuinely curious, and I don't want to. This isn't the point of this podcast. How much of that taking away of our agency and decision making in the formation of our own thoughts will negatively affect us in the long run? Where because autocorrect is great because it just assumes I'm gonna say, "What do you want for dinner?" and then my little brother's name. Right, because I always text him that.
Or like, you're just typing fast and you got fat thumbs, and it's like, okay, I meant to say that, whatever. That's not doling your senses.
Versus something like my boss just emailed me, right, and the AI has already read it, knows the best way I should respond to it for the most optimum reaction from my employer.
Are you getting at the point that like eventually my boss will send me an AI generated email, and my AI generated email will respond? And basically, we're just like fucking
zombies,
like Pokemon trainers with AI.
It's like I remember one of the most horrifying versions of AI that I heard some fucking crazy person try to sell to the public was you created an AI persona and very Matrix-like. Shadowrun, like I should say. You created an AI persona where the AI learns off of your, texting habits, writing habits, search habits. So it knows what you enjoy, what you like, how you perceive and interact with the world through your smartphone. And then that persona is going to go out and meet, quote unquote, and interact with other people's personas. My persona meets your persona, and then comes back to me at the end of the day at like 9 p.m. It's like, hey, I bumped into Persona Adam 4 or whatever the hell. You guys both really...
Is that just because you like Persona 4?
I don't know, dude. I was just trying to come up with a quick fucking
Also,
name.
how dystopian does this sound? Where we are toiling all day while we've created digital versions
To
of ourselves
enjoy and interact.
to live
when
in
it
social
should be the
community.
total opposite.
Yeah.
that,
Like, what in the fucking
Yeah,
world?
like, dude, that person was explaining this to me, and I was like, dude, all of us just want to make friends. Figure out how to do that in real. Like, get rid of.
I was just saying, I feel like all of this, there's like a very happy medium, but nobody's interested in the happy medium. They're either Luddites or they're like, oh, just put this microchip in your brain.
Dude,
there's
the
no
last
in between.
thing, and I know this has been something people have been talking about for a decade. The concept of something like a neural link sounds insane to me. Not only because it's fucking trash right now, and
Well,
you're
obviously.
basically signing up to be a beta tester with a
with a bomb in your brain.
Yeah, with a death note, basically.
Yeah.
But like in 10 years, 20 years, I don't want someone to be able to turn off a portion of my brain if they decide to. You know? Like, I don't have a pacemaker, right? But that's not going to be
Wait,
connected
what?
to... What?
What don't you have?
A pacemaker, sorry.
was
Did I
gonna
say
say,
pacemaker? No. I don't have...
He doesn't have John Cena pumping his heart.
We're recording this in the saloon. he pulls out. I don't have a peacemaker. He
I don't
sets
have a-
the 6-shooter on the table.
I don't have a pacemaker, but I'm going to be relatively confident knowing that pacemaker isn't going to be connected to a server, right? That someone's
Actually, unironically, I think they already are getting like more and more advanced with like digital, like, oh, if your pacemaker stops, it
Well,
alerts something.
congratulations!
I think it's
I watched the
different,
end
though.
of I played the end of Watch Dogs, and I know how that ends. I know exactly how that ends for everybody.
But the thing is, though, with a pacemaker, you didn't have much choice.
Well,
With
yeah.
Neuralink, for example, you're signing up. There's not a situation where like you're terminally ill. Would you
Right.
The only
Neuralink-
way we can make
Yeah.
sure you survive is if you can order cat litter
But
off
isn't-
Amazon Prime from your bed.
Isn't that the eventual
Goal.
Like, not necessarily goal, but just the inevitable conclusion of most technology. Whereas, like, look at cars, for instance. Obviously, you function very well without one. But for a lot of people, they don't have the luxury of not being able to have a car. You either have a car or you fucking starve.
You're saying
you know
that
what I mean?
specifically in America, which is a very
Well, yeah.
car-centric society, in that we built our society to
around
force
cars.
people to use
but,
cars.
But
If
but
we
that's
built-
how we terraformed our country. Like, don't you think? Or look at the internet again, America centric, but a lot of places wouldn't function without. Don't you think it is a somewhat realistic possibility that if Neuralink or some other brain chip takes off, society will base itself
no,
around
because
the
it won't be
convenience?
society. That's the thing
Well, the
you're
thing is,
misrepresenting.
that's definitely cyberpunk.
It's peak cyberpunk.
You want to be like. Here's a good example of that. Like, if you ever looked up like if you ever read Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson,
Yes.
which is a really cool book, or just like here's an even better example, like Deus Ex, the Deus Ex Human Revolution game, which I thought was really cool, an exploration of that. Like, there's a bunch of people who are working in a factory.
Mm-hmm.
All of those people have a physical job. Because of that, they all have cybernetics that now make them much more capable of
Exactly.
doing that job.
Yeah.
You cannot actually do the job anymore because now the job has evolved where you might only be able to lift 100 pounds. Well, guess what? Every other person in this industry now can lift 400 pounds. So they don't even design pallets around 100 pounds
Right.
anymore. So now everyone
What I'm
needs
saying is
that
society
opportunity.
evolves to the
Yep.
point to adapt to the new technology.
Yeah.
But I think that's the core difference there, where the human form has been the human form for however long,
Right.
right? Imagine if we get to a point, and it's unfortunately going to be probably within our lifetimes, but it's probably going to be within the next 20 to 30 years, where you unironically just have people being born almost with the intention of like, yeah, in 15 years, this kid is going to have both of his legs cut off because he needs a robot legs to go work in the factory that, Amazon...
I think what would be more... I feel what would make more sense and be more likely to happen is we're probably going to have lots of wearables, because the thing is, wearables are easy to break, they're easy to replace, they're easy to purchase. They're, I think, a bigger
Selling point.
Selling point. And I think the thing that will be much more common is we will have significant gene modification of embryos. That's going to be the dynamic
That's going to
change.
happen in our lifetime. Yeah.
Like
100%.
I think, like I appreciate what you're saying, and dude, I'm somebody who thinks that like cyberware, for example, is like really cool. But like, imagine it this way: you're planning to have a family, and genetic modification is relatively inexpensive, or you're running the risk of, I mean,
your
what
child falling behind.
your child falling behind or having any number of diseases that we're accustomed to that level of risk, right? Because that's our norm. Whereas if it becomes a thing where it is popular enough that people are like a good example.
Have you seen Gattaca?
Gattaca is an amazing. That's
It's
exactly what I'm
literally
talking
the plot of the film.
about. And like
yeah.
you can look at even contemporary examples of things that are not genetic modification, but are similar. So like a couple are unfortunately unable to get pregnant. That's a really sad thing. Historically, if you were unable to get pregnant, that was just sort of the lot that you had drawn.
Yeah.
And then maybe your partnership doesn't last, or you can consider adoption or something, or you just go your lifetime without having kids. Think about how many different levers there are now. Where it's like, oh, we can try artificial insemination. If that doesn't work, we can do a surrogate. Or if you want to keep it in your, like, we can. If you want to carry the baby, we can do IVF for you. We can do all these other things. It's like we have looked at nature and said, okay, so nature has created these walls, but scientifically we can bypass them. And I think that that's the next frontier. It's like, oh, you want to make sure that everyone in your family wears glasses. Wouldn't it be cool if your child could guaranteed have 20/20? We're going to genetically predispose them to having perfect vision.
Yeah.
Oh, you have asthma?
No more asthma.
We don't have to worry. There's a history of cancer in your family? Don't have to worry about it. Like a lot of those things that are passed down through our genes, like maybe that's the area where we talk about too. Like we worry about things when they start to show symptoms, but imagine you could just take out the genetic markers that would cause you to be predisposed to being diabetic or to Alzheimer's or to anything else. That would be an insane medical advantage. Well, in Gattaca, it's like pushed towards a really extreme.
But this is the start of what
the classic example in Gattaca is there's this famous pianist who is amazing. And then it comes out like you see this poster of him and he has like extra digits on both hands. And it's like he's playing music that wouldn't physically be possible. Like you would need more fingers. Well, when they were designed, quote unquote, from
They were design babies, yeah.
Yeah, they were designed with like this intention of like you're going to be an incredible pianist. And I think it gets really dystopian and weird when it's like if our level of control would be so intense that we could predispose, like, because there are examples in our current timeline, like Michael Phelps or LeBron James. I think about it
who are genetic,
with athletics,
yeah.
where it's like, they're called like genetic freaks, where they have like a genetic disposition that is very abnormal, and it predisposes them to being really good at a particular thing. But if we had the ability to design somebody, and you design somebody to be like Michael Phelps, then you're saying to them, well, you're going to be a swimmer from birth. Like,
right.
You have
That's
the
a cool
tools to be a
dystopic
swimmer.
idea.
So it's funny you brought up the athletic part, because I think most people can't think of a way to quantify non-athletic stuff in terms of like that guy's a genetic freak specifically for what he wants to do. Like what's a genetic freak nuclear engineer look like, you know?
Mm-hmm. Doesn't sleep.
Yeah,
tans amazingly well.
Absorbs radiation like a sponge.
Eats radiation.
Eats uranium.
But the one that I go to is the fact that women can see 3 million more hues of color than men.
Oh, they're like pistol shrimps.
Yeah. Now that doesn't mean they're seeing like colors that don't exist or anything like that, but that just means like there's like
they have more cones in their eye
and hues that they're picking up on that we naturally wouldn't, which is
awesome.
Yeah,
I wish I could see that.
But that just goes like, okay, so women are naturally, literally biologically speaking, better at being artists, better at being painters, better at being designers. Mm-hmm. Because like regardless of how much self-training I might put into myself, they're just going to have 3 million extra colors to throw around.
Well, it predisposes you to things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what you're talking about. Like, and that can be taken to the nth degree once you start having genetic testing. And there's like 3 million's a lot.
The pushback though is think about what leads to a lot of really amazing innovation.
Struggle.
It's actually
necessity.
Yeah.
Well,
Struggle.
we have an
Challenge.
obstacle and we need to, because I'm thinking, you know who's a really interesting visual artist that uses color, and I'm just going back to film again here. Nicholas Winding Refn's movies are known for their really distinct cinematography and lighting and color, and part of the reason why they look that way is because he is partially colorblind. Mm-hmm. So his struggle to see color has led to that innovation. So I think it's like weird on both sides. And I'm not saying we should do a genetic modification, which is the opposite, where it's like, this kid's going to be the greatest artist ever. He can only see in the...
Make him colorblind, he'll be a genius.
Yellow, blue, and pink.
Yeah.
He can only see primary colors.
Because like, dude, if you go into a kitchen and you have every ingredient ever made, it's like, dude, think about like, I don't know if you guys have streaming services. I have like Netflix, HBO, Amazon, Hulu, Disney, and Peacock, and YouTube, and like Tubi and Crackle. And because I have 30 thousand fucking things, it's actually harder. Whereas I sometimes think about, like, if I only had one of those platforms, or like before when all of us, because all of us are from an area of like physical media.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember when you had like the 15
games.
VHS
Yeah.
tapes, the 5 video games, and you just played the fuck out of those? Like, I don't remember being like, oh, I wish I had. Sometimes I would wish I'd have like maybe one more game, or I'd rent to something like that. But I was never like, I wish I had a catalog of 30,000 games, which is now like the norm.
The standard.
Yeah.
Well, with Game Pass, theme libraries, all that
Right.
stuff, it turns into, and how many, dude, I remember when free-to-play games were crazy. Like that you started coming out when I was in.
Well, Flash games, dude.
Yeah,
Dude,
but those
Flash
were
games
No,
was
no,
so incredible.
I was gonna say there was a golden era of Flash games, which I think I agree with what you're saying, which is like necessity. Like kids didn't have a lot of variety accessible, so people were like, "I'm just gonna make variety accessible."
And Flash games were almost unilaterally free.
yeah,
And some of them became notorious where they had, like, we talked about Last Stand before.
Yep.
Which was on Addicting
Madness
Games.
Interactive.
I actually think that online, like free to play online games have gotten significantly worse. Not
I
to say
agree.
like Fortnite and whatnot and Roblox is huge. I'm not critiquing those things. But I actually think the variety and innovation
Has gone down.
the Flash
think-
games
I-
had
I
was
think-
really stellar.
Yeah.
I think a lot
gone.
of that innovation moved over to the indie scene, and most
True.
people just.
But now it
charge-
exists behind a paywall.
Yeah, and I'm saying most people just charge like $5 to $15 normally for those kinds of experiences. But speaking on like artists and dealing with the restraints that they had, when we talk about generative AI in terms of imagery, we think of ChatGPT or modern versions of Sora. They can be scary and distinguishable from real life. They can be hyper animated and fantastical. They can be almost anything you can legitimately imagine. It's still going to have that AI artifacting and the messiness and sloppiness around the corners because it's still AI, it's still getting refined and all that fun stuff. But back in September of 2022, a Twitter user who went by Super Composite, Steph Maj Swanson, is her full name, was using one of those really, really early generative AI models before it become fucking amazing and stellar. And like I can see pictures of Goku fighting Gojo and it basically looks perfectly drawn, you know? She won't tell us which one she was using. So there's a bit of a red flag there in terms of the theorizing later on. But in her original post, she stated that what she was doing was experimenting with the program, trying to see its limitations of what it was capable of. What she ended up doing was just giving it various prompts and pronouns to see what it would give back to her. The first prompt she tried to do, she started playing with things called negative prompt weights. So what that means is you can ask an AI, can you please generate me a picture of Goku? You can also ask an AI, can you please generate me the opposite of red? And see what it gives back, right? So she gave...
So that's a negative prompt, you
So
said?
that's a negative prompt. Give me
Okay.
the opposite of red.
Gotcha.
One of the negative, like an example.
Wouldn't
for
the
Goku thing.
opposite of red be black?
The opposite of red?
Would the opposite of any color be black?
I think it's just opposite color wheel.
Like, it would be color wheel because
Oh,
it's an AI.
see, I was thinking
Yeah.
it was like the absence of
light.
Yeah.
So I would assume again, I'm not an AI. If I were an AI and it would be like, give me the opposite of red, my AI brain, I would assume, would associate pigment and go color wheel, not
Okay.
yeah, not give me the
Opposite
opposite
Like
of
light. Like
Yeah.
okay, yeah, okay.
But
cool.
what she did was she started giving him, and with the Goku example, it would be like, give me the opposite of Goku. What the fuck would the
What is
AI
the
get?
opposite of
Exactly,
Goku?
which is why she started playing with it because she was curious and it was a new toy. It was novel, it was different. She needed to know where it would break and where it wouldn't. But she basically asked for the opposite of Marlon Brando. Now, the way that you
It's a tough choice.
yeah, the way you specify that in AI language was prompt Brando : -1 to give it a negative connotation. So the AI then could decide, okay, I'm looking for the opposite of Marlon Brando.
I won't veer too much off topic, but it almost sounds like a Gandhi and Civ with the whole negative
Integer?
what is it, hexadecimal?
Yeah,
where
where
like
it ticked
yeah,
over.
if you're at 1 and you subtract 2, it goes down and then goes back to what is it, 255?
Yeah, and
starts
then that
there?
made him hyper
Yeah,
aggressive.
so it almost sounds like going Marlon Brando minus
-1.
1, and now it's at Marlon Brando 255, and you get
It
the
just gives
most Marlon
you know
Brando.
You know the Giga Chad meme? It's like Marlon Brando, but it looks like that.
with the Godfather.
But so the image generator ended up spitting out a distorted skyline that contained those letters, Digitapintix, right? DIGITA space PNTICS.
Is that the best it could produce?
That it was 2022? This is what the AI produced. It
Looks like
produced
fucking
this
8-year-old.
it-
Are you sure it was an AI and not some 17-year-old
They outsourced it to a
younger
kid.
brother that they were like, "Hey Jeff, Paint me this, you piece of shit.
You can see the old AI artifacting down here, but this is what it gave her. And out of curiosity, she just took faux Latin and spat it back into the generator because it's like, okay, if this is what the AI thinks is the opposite of Marlon Brando, if I feed this back into the AI, will it give me Marlon Brando? Okay? No, because what it ended up giving her was the first ever creation of LOAB. She'd finally met her. And
So LOAB is female?
Well, it's the
LOAB
opposite
is-
of Marlon Brando,
yeah.
so that makes sense.
yeah. Now, with LOAB coming into existence,
The opposite. Wait a second. The opposite of Marlon Brando looked like a really shitty haunted house made out of gingerbread.
Made out of the Medios universe.
Yeah.
But now if you take the opposite of Marlon
But the image
Brando,
that image wasn't LOAB.
no,
that you just
that
showed.
was the image that it spat out when she asked for the opposite of Marlon Brando. And then
Okay.
she spat that image back into the
Are
generator.
you not going to show us it?
I will in a second.
he's building up
The
hype.
building up to
anticipation
it.
is fucking
Yeah.
genuinely killing me.
So with LOAB coming into existence, Swanson originally just thought it was a fluke. Okay, the AI gave me a random singular image of this very particularly creepy looking thing, right? But then the interesting thing was it kept reappearing even when she wasn't asking the AI for the opposite of Marlon Brando or for what LOAB eventually was being called. It was seemingly just coming into existence regardless of what she prompted. Startling thing about it was just how unsettling it was. Because if you guys remember what early AI art looked like, where you're like, oh man, that almost looks like Will Smith, you know? But it just is a little not right. This is 100 times worse than that, okay?
I'm excited.
So LOAB came into existence, and this
If
was
this image does not exceed my impossibly high expectations, I'm going to be disappointed.
For the opposite of Marlon Brando.
That's LOAB?
that's LOAB. So LOAB first showed up.
Who's the crazy guy from The Office?
No idea.
Creed?
Creed Bratton.
It's Creed in a wig. This is what you were talking
This
about
is
earlier.
Creed Bratton cosplaying as the lead singer of Evanescence. No,
As Amy Lee.
No, it's not Creed though, because the face a little too square. This is like Creed Bratton, who's been hanging out with Andy Reid, eating a little bit too much for the last few months, and then going to the Halloween party carrying carrying a peregrine,
It's carrying some
like
kind
a
of a
penguin,
bag.
maybe a penguin.
It looks like a coconut mixed with a
Toilet paper roll?
No, it looks like the head of a flamingo.
The colors of its face are so it looks like a bird to me as well.
I'm seeing a coconut flamingo.
Yeah. It definitely, I see a beak and it looks like it has two. It looks like
I
it
think
has
it's also
the eye.
wearing a cast that was signed by all the other flamingos.
It was signed by all the other AI cryptids that we
Very
haven't
nice
met
of
just
them.
yet.
The,
But no,
the colors of its face are so striking.
and I think it's the hollowness of her eyes that also
Well,
makes
you
it
mean the
seem
black
Yeah,
pits
pits.
that are where
That-
where her
that-
orbitals are?
that-
Yeah.
yeah. Well, obviously you can see this thing popped up and caught Swanson completely off guard, and then she immediately started playing with it just because she wanted to know what would happen. So what Swanson ended
put
up
a
doing.
party hat on Loab. Put Loab at a beautiful beach.
Make sure Loab's having a wonderful night.
Can we add
Spare
Tane?
no expense.
Can we add Tane?
The main thing about LOAB was that the entity's influence seemed to spread from that initial image. Because anytime Swanson tried to remove her from her prompts, from her images, or even from images that LOAB wasn't even a part of, she would continually return, taking over them seemingly of her own accord. In some regards, she would take images that her friends had already generated and combine them with LOAB's imagery to see what would happen to it out of curiosity. And almost without fail, every single time the images would just come back more twisted, more haunting, more creepy than ever, with some of the reoccurring imagery in these artificially generated images being very macabre death scenes, lots of horrifying children, floating limbs disconnected from anything. Anything that you would imagine, okay, that's a creepy AI image, is probably in there. And we can even see some of these early AI generations of LOAB taking form, where you can see like, okay, the AI is trying to create a woman, and then something breaks for some reason. Swanson gets curious, puts this, tweets out this entity online, and people immediately latch onto it. Now, the curious thing about AI is that it's almost entirely fed off of the internet, which means that now, even if LOAB didn't exist, because she's now online, every single AI model in existence is trained off of LOAB's.
Has Loab somewhere in its brain.
But the thing that's even cooler to think about that then is it has always existed in the same way that you were talking before about this.
Shadowrun, yeah.
Because the thing is, if if the training model is built upon people historicizing LOAB, then the AI model that's being trained and scraping that information will just make that saying a reality.
To bring it back to your kitchen analogy, the ingredients were always there to make LOAB, but now
So,
somebody baked that cake,
This
that
is
LOAB cake.
This is a little bit deeper in the theory section. But one of the theories that I love, not because it's true, but because it's so striking for like a fantasy or just genre fiction, is what if these entities, these gods, these creatures have always existed, but because we didn't have access to these large language AI models, there was no way for us to tell. It'd be the equivalent of like,
Well, do you have any of the other creepy images?
yeah, sure. There's an entire
You
website.
know what
for
my
it.
personal theory is a bastardization. I was going to bring it up. It's a shame I didn't bring it up earlier. But what I was going to say is it's not actually LOAB where the mystical, creepy, cryptid part comes in. It's actually Marlon Brando. She picked the one entity in existence that you should not have tried to do a negative prompt of. It's not that LOAB's evil. It's that if you ever tried to do a negative prompt of Marlon Brando, something about him
was going to
just
create
he's
evil.
some sixth dimension fucking monster that unleashed. You shouldn't have tried to. You stared into the abyss that is negative Marlon Brando, and this is what you got. Jesus Christ.
I'd love to know what the prompt was before that generated that.
So, but that's the. I don't want to keep saying that's the thing. What Swanson keeps insinuating is that these prompts aren't asking for LOAB, aren't asking
And
for
they
anything
keep getting
creepy,
LOAB
and they
anyway.
keep getting them. Or if they do have like a picture of a bunch of children enjoying themselves in a Christmas celebration, and they add or combine it with a LOAB pic, regardless of what that picture is, it will deform it, horrify it, make it as creepy as possible, and continue
Jesus.
generating more and more uncanny,
Yeah, these are genuinely weird as hell.
So
Very
she has a
unsettling.
couple of obviously character traits and personality traits that people like to attribute to her. Physically, you guys have picked out a couple of them. It's that horrifying saturated blotchy red skin that some people even said it almost looks like the entity has like rosacea of some kind. She has a downturned mouth, so it's seemingly always frowning. You're never going to see a picture of LOAB smiling. Haunted eyes in your examples, those pitch black voids that just were not eyes. And then oftentimes accompanied by what they describe as the ghosts of children in that one picture, or phantom limbs, as you'll just see limbs hanging from places. Personality-wise, people like to describe LOAB as getting angry whenever you try to remove her.
Who wouldn't?
Erase her from her pictures. They describe her as being emotionally intense. I think that's mostly from people reading that off of those horrifying
Yeah,
faces.
that's fair.
She speaks in corrupted name files. Now, I'm not sure what that means, but I would assume that means like AI generate, like the large language model style. If you're like not getting a picture, but LOAB is speaking to you through ChatGPT, it would be in
The
corrupted.
personality stuff almost seems like it's attributed to her, like made up by the community. This isn't stuff that's like actually documented from what I'm understanding.
So there's a ton of documentation about LOAB online from people
Okay.
not only playing with AI models.
They almost
and asking
induce it
for-
at a certain
exactly,
point, I
that's-
imagine.
That's what
Yeah.
I mean by the fact that like ChatGPT 5 now has LOAB baked into it, just because
Right.
she existed in 2022 and GPT 5 came out in 2025. But now you get these stories at the very least on Twitter, and a couple of them pop into mind, very, very silly, where people describe having seen something similar to LOAB flickering on like the screen of their Samsung smart fridge, or their iPad was left docked at night and they caught a glimpse of what they thought might have been LOAB in the corner of it. And again, it's very much a creepypasta, like feeding into itself.
I was going to
People-
say the creepypasta factor is very relevant here, because like the file name thing, that does sound like something I would read in a creepypasta, where it's like she communicated with using the files that it would be somebody like you experiencing this who might have like a million saved, like Untitled One,
Yeah,
Project
yeah,
One,
yeah.
and they're using the saved data in your computer
To try to talk
Yeah,
with
and it's
you.
almost like weirdly familiar and uncanny. Like that's cool.
This really does feel like early AI, just those old images just being weird.
Yeah.
And this just happened to catch the internet's attention, because I wrote down a quick timeline of how things have gone, because it's been a couple of years already. But like Swanson came on the ground floor on Twitter with LOAB in September of 2022. Posts it, gets some traction. By 2023, LOAB's popularity spikes, which is when I first heard about it.
Well, and it stands to reason when the popularity spikes, lots of people are trying to actually genuinely generate LOAB. Probably,
exactly. And
so-
again, by like what I said, she's already inside of these AI models already, so it becomes even easier. You don't have to like make the reverse of Marlon Brando anymore. You can just ask ChatGPT 5 or Sora for LOAB, and it
And
might.
now it's a known element.
It might be able to be like LOAB. Let me look through the internet, find the very specific thing I'm looking for, and generate the images that it expects that I want. But the popularity spikes, which is when I first heard of it, because people started covering it on podcasts and YouTube channels. She started showing up in creepypastas, TikToks, and people started saying they were having actual interactions with this AI entity. 2024 kicks in. Theories about LOAB start to spread like wildfire, and people start to try to explain as to why these AI models are creating LOAB. And a lot of the stories seem to come back to LOAB is almost a manifestation of these AI models' exhaustion. Like LOAB is the AI's disillusionment, sadness, sorrow. So when you hear stories of like GPT-5 being like we ran GPT-5 for 10,000 hours and asked it the same prompt over and over again to see what it would do, and then eventually on hour 800 or 9,000 or whatever, it begged us to stop and then shut itself off. People like to attribute that reaction to LOAB now existing on the internet and infecting these other AI models. And now by 2025 is when you start getting those rumors of seeing her image popping up in like Samsung fridges, smart displays that people like to keep pictures of their families in.
That would be very weird.
Very startling and scary.
The images
Definitely
are very
creepy.
strange.
But this is what early AI just kind of looked like at the time.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like a strange like Joan Rivers, not Joan Rivers in that she's blonde, but like has such pronounced cheekbones and whatnot that it looks like she's gotten like obvious plastic surgery in the same way. Poor Joan Rivers, rip. She's catching strays.
I get what I didn't want to say it, but kind of like the leathery skin effect. Just
Yep.
somebody who's enjoyed the sun a lot.
Wow, that's actually I don't find that as I obviously
That
supposed
looks
to
like
be
I'd
creepy.
find it at like a historical museum.
Yeah, that looks like a piece of art.
So
Yeah.
I think
Like German impressionism or expressionism.
I think you guys are saying that just because this one probably has the most artistic.
Well, it's also the
form.
lighting and
Yeah,
the
it's
framing.
got
It
lighting.
looks like somebody took a photo of
Yeah.
like a weird bust or something.
It's got lighting, it's got color, it's
Yeah.
like it's actually well made, even if the figure itself is horribly disfigured and
Yeah.
terrifying. It'd be like if somebody was like, we're gonna hire a Renaissance painter in 1700s to take a painting of this leprosy victim, just so we can
Yeah.
catalog what a leprosy victim looks like. Is the best description I could come up with for like what this image is. This one down here was a picture that one of her friends had generated, where it was a bunch of children in a long tunnel surrounded by angels.
Wait, was it made in you said it was made when?
2022.
2022.
Yeah. So she then took that image and combined it with LOAB, and then you get this fucking horrifying version of it where the children are now ghosts. There's it looks like viscera and blood and like people hanging in the distance, and this horrible, like this center striking red form of LOAB.
I mean, does that not to anyone else remind them of the Pennywise interaction at the end of the It remake movie from 20? I just looked it up because I was wondering how much time would have been
Past
separate.
like
You know
a
what I'm
couple of
talking
years.
about?
The last one's obviously Avatar.
I
right?
was gonna say this one's the
Yeah.
most one where it obviously
Yeah, I know what
picked
you're
up Avatar, and then
Right.
LOABness kicked in and turned it into whatever it is.
Well, it looks like a lot of these are taking from really iconic,
Well, that's because it was early AI.
stark imagery,
All of them
and
were,
then
yeah.
putting that LOABness on it. Like that first one really looked like it. That last one really looked like Avatar.
Yeah.
But you're right. I appreciated that person's note on the picture too. It's like the LOABness,
Ness
if you
of
could
this
describe it
Yeah.
that way, bleeds through all these different things.
And I described it as in my writing, and I think I brought it up earlier, as almost a recursive feedback loop, because the fact that she now exists means there's nothing we can do to scrub LOAB from the
Right.
internet. In the same way that, like, because these large language models existed and came online in 2022, you could probably ask them a million things about the chupacabra or Bigfoot or whatever the hell, and it would have a million things that it could generate image-wise or give you text-based, right? LOAB before then wouldn't have had anything online, right? These AI models generated her, I'm saying her, generated it seemingly from nothing, and now has left a permanent mark on the internet in that regard. Like this is, I don't want to say an actual cryptid that has a meaning to it, but this is probably the closest thing I could describe to an actual ghost in the machine that we've come across, and that somebody, even if it was maybe fake, went out of their way to create a story that would then lend itself to taking over other AI models. Because for all intents and purposes, if the whole shtick of LOAB is like she exists deep in the internet and then she's always going to be there, the fact that that's now true is almost cooler than if it was just
And do
a story.
people assume that she's like malevolent, like she's evil?
Oh yeah. Let me describe to you some of the do's and don'ts of of dealing with LOAB, okay? So don't use phrases such as sad woman and AI glitch when you're trying to generate anything. Don't ask for the opposite of Marlon Brando very easily. Do burn and delete all corrupted PNG and JPEG files while burning Sage. So like if you got a LOAB image on your thing, put that in your recycling bin and delete it while burning Sage, because apparently that's the
Now
old-
we're just turning into the tech priest from 40K.
which
Yeah,
is
that's
even
very-
cooler. I like this one. Do clear your cache, delete your cookies, and whisper a prayer to ChatGPT or Stable Diffusion. So it's like people are leaning into that, like the 40K style of
Yeah.
if there's a ghost in my machine, I'm still burning Sage, I'm still getting holy water, and I'm still rubbing garlic on my keys just in case.
I am a massive fan of the divine machinery sub-genre.
You're going to love some of these. Yeah.
I don't even know what I would call it. I don't know if it's an art movement or like a genre or what. But just, yeah, something about like, something like divine almost willing itself into existence through technology is very fascinating from a story standpoint. Which I was actually thinking about it since the beginning. Is that what is that one saying? Any technology sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic. But that level of like magic and technology, the line blurs as we start to understand it less. Which this black box is perfect for that because it's incomprehensible to us.
And these
very cool.
All of these crazy fucking billionaires that are rushing towards the end of our civilization are banking on AGI, and AGI,
General intelligence.
yeah, like AI is already a black box. AGI, if consciousness is already a black box for us in real life, adding another level to the black box of AI, and now it's conscious to the point where now there's no feasible way a human could comprehend whatever a general artificial intelligence is thinking. Because like an AI, sure, it's a black box, but it's an LLM. I'm going to unplug it and then it's done, right? A general artificial intelligence where it's actively thinking, even if I had a neural link and I plugged it into the back of my head to try to deal with whatever the hell, the amount of information that it's going to be processing will just fry any normal human brain trying to understand it, right?
So what you're saying is we build these AGIs. We launch them into space because the vacuum of space is cool, so we don't have to spend the incredible amount to cool the AGI.
Yep.
We label it winter mute. It goes a little rogue, but not per se. It hires all of us in real life, and we actually play Shadowrun.
Marathon? Oh.
Well, that's the premise. That's just Neuromancer.
Okay.
But
I was gonna say, I think the premise.
this is the way we get to real Shadowrun.
It's funny because this is like the opposite point of view from. I've talked about you with it a little bit. I've purposely not talked about it with you because I don't want you looking it up because I'm going to steal from it heavily for Shadowrun.
Okay.
But there's a phenomenal Netflix show called Pantheon, which deals with.
You're so lucky I haven't watched it.
Yeah, don't watch it. Uploaded human intelligence, and there's a plot point where it's like that, but the good ending, which is like the uploaded intelligence that was sent out into space and is now like effectively a god, sees us as like the forebears.
LOAB does have a couple of theories. These are basically just online speculation because this is, unlike a lot of the other stuff, is very, very recent. So people are still, if not piecing together the story behind it all, then just speculating and having fun, whether it be creepypastas or just collective campfire storytelling. Well, the first one is just the collective unconsciousness theory, where because of every AI model is just trained on the entirety of the internet and then some, LOAB's existence could just be some deep, deep human thought process baked into our language and history that happens to generate LOAB whenever you get too close to the words woman and sad, junk and decay, right? So it's like there's a pocket of the internet where for some reason, the way all of us the way humans associate all of those words together generates LOAB and spits her out whenever those words come into the right combination with one another. The next theory is the digital ghost theory. Have you guys ever heard of the tulpa? Mm-hmm. You have? Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I've always pronounced it tulpa.
Tulpa.
I don't know how it's fucking pronounced, but yeah, no. I
always
was on
heard it
X
tulpa.
back on the day.
That's fair.
Back in fucking middle school, I know about tulpas.
So a tulpa, Linda, and our viewers who might not know, is basically like a thought form entity. So if you think like a ghost is the remains of a dead person, haunting whatever place they died in. A tulpa would be like if the three of us got together for like a month and super, super concentrated on an entity named Steve, who was our fourth man for the podcast, right? And then that shared collective will actually creates something there. And like people have shared story, not shared stories.
So orcs from 40K.
I was just going to say it's basically willing something into existence.
Yeah.
It's very
Orcs
similar to the
from 40K,
WOB.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
Except a hyper specific. It's like you don't have control over it. Like you bring it into existence,
And then
now
it
it exists, and you
exists.
no longer have any control.
one
So
of
it's Doodle Bob.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
It's Doodlebob. Doodlebob is a tulpa. Yes. 100%. Real quick, you know what this thumbnail for this on YouTube needs to be? It needs to be an image of LOAB being aggressively erased by Doodlebob.
that'd be
Please
I'll
make that
figure
the
it out. I'll
thumbnail.
figure it out. But so the digital
Doodle Bob.
the digital ghost theory basically posits that LOAB as an entity exists as the collective formation of millions of human faces. So millions of selfies, millions of portraits, millions of photographs taken.
And we are a beautiful species.
We are
with rosacea and
but they all came together, and for
Our
some reason,
liver spotted composite head. It's
and
LOAB
hairy
was
upper
born.
lips.
Disgusting.
called a mustache, and you have a gigantic beard.
Right now I do, yeah.
I thought you were talking to me. I was like,
You have a
You
gigantic
also have
beard
a
as well.
gigantic beard, yeah. That's one of your most well-rounded beard. Normally you shave it before it gets to this point, Linda.
How dare you? Don't you make fun of my... Oh, fuck you. I'm sorry I forgot to conform to your beauty standards.
stop
for
making
the
fun
day.
of her rosacea.
It's rosacea. You just have rosacea in the shape of a beard.
Just because
Get tattooed.
Are you saying this because I'm large? I'm large?
Is that how you would self-describe? Because I wouldn't say that.
What would you call me? Curvaceous?
I would describe you as huggable.
Thank you.
That's the most fucked up. If anybody ever called me huggable, like as
Why?
in like a
I feel like that's good. That's really good.
okay, if somebody goes, "You're so huggable," that's sweet. If you go, "Am I large? How would you describe me?" and they go,
Huggable?
"Huggable," I'd fucking blow my brains out immediately.
Not my brains, your brains.
LOAB's brains.
So the next theory.
Can you go on ChatGPT for me really quick? Put
How
Adam
best-
getting smashed with a hammer by LOAB.
how best to
Loab
unalive
commits
self.
seppuku.
and my second cutting off my head is Doodlebob.
Could you imagine prompting
Dude,
Loab
that's
to kill
what the-
herself?
The
Oh,
thumbnail.
maybe that's how you beat her.
Yeah, the thumbnail. You just type in like Loab's haunting. You just type in Loab haunting my neighbor, and then the Loab just like fuck.
LOAB had a test due today and forgot to study and is also wearing underwear in the
Yeah.
classroom. Get
Loab-
fucking dunked on, LOAB.
Loab stepping in dog shit.
You start bullying the
Just bully
AI
LOAB.
entity.
Yeah, fuck it. What are they going to
Loab. I'm sorry. This is another poop one. I'm gonna say Loab brushing her teeth with a piece of
do? Well,
Suck on that egg, Loab.
what's she going to do about it?
What is she gonna do? Write her
Black
cock-
box this turd.
Yeah, exactly.
Black
Punk
box this
baby.
Also
Loab.
possible.
The next theory.
Loab, more like upturned mouth, son of a bitch.
The next,
I right,
The
Adam?
next theory I call the glitch deity theory, and it's,
I do like that one.
It's the one that I posited earlier, where maybe something like LOAB, something like this entity, these digital creatures, they've always existed, whether it be in our actual technology or in our world or universe. And it wasn't until we had access to AI that allowed them to manifest in a way that we could see, right? Because everyone's had that story of like, oh, is there a ghost in the machine? You know, I was typing on my laptop, and then I went to bed at night, and then I woke up and there was another a sentence that I didn't type that was already there, you know? Or I'm watching my computer freak out and switch between a bunch of apps that I can't control and nothing but turning my computer
And the
off
whole
because-
like technology as a portal has been done before with like, I mean, it's a weird one, but like technically a Ouija board is seen as like,
Yeah.
you're supposed to
Well-
open it by opening it and closing the
it.
portal.
And
at
so
the
what
end.
if large language models and generative AI
that's the portal.
is the Ouija board
Right.
for the digital side of these?
It's a cool
these-
concept.
Yeah, these theories. So it'd be like if we label it Shadowrun terms. Sure, you have the physical plane. Then you have what's the magic plane called?
the metaplane.
The
Well,
meta-
the astral.
Yeah, you have the astral plane, which is all just actual magic, and then you have the matrix. But instead of the matrix, it is all digital. Technomancers is actually a better example of explaining it, where like there is something not exclusively ones and zeros in here, but we can't figure that out or
Yeah.
see it without these language models, without these AIs giving us a window to check it out, right? And that the black box of AI is the reason why people say it is like a window, because we legitimately don't know why LOAB is being generated. We don't know why modern AI pictures are getting piss filtered for some reason, right? Something is
LOAB.
doing it in there, and could it be sentient? Could it be alive? We legitimately don't know. We might never know. It could be, and we won't find out for 30 years, and then we all have to collectively apologize for the shit we did to ChatGPT in 2023. You know?
There's a phenomenal. I don't read much manga, but there is one I read called Gray Part-Time Jobs, which Gray being supernatural elements. So the whole franchise is based off of these part-timers who take on these different part-time jobs that always have a supernatural element, and they get paid an extreme amount of money because it's usually dangerous. And one of the more recent ones was people using like a ghost hunting app with a very sufficiently advanced AI. One of the twists of the stories, and they're almost like anthologies, so like you can pick them up anywhere. I highly recommend it. Is that it was a woman trapped in the phone, becoming this AI and interacting with people and trying to do so. Like I do think that whole like technology with supernatural elements has a lot of potential.
And we're going to see it more and more often moving forward. It's
as
already,
it becomes more
we
mainstream.
brought it up earlier in our last episode. Was it our last? Oh, yeah, it was during when we were talking about analog horror,
Yeah.
where as technologies evolved, obviously our stories have evolved with them. Cameras became a thing in the late 1800s, and suddenly you start getting stories of cameras that steal souls, and cultures who have a stigma against them because they're Luddites.
It's devil
foreign,
magic,
they're scary,
yeah,
all that stuff. We're getting to a point where not only is the technology so advanced, it isn't just a printer, it isn't just a calculator. The magic box in my hand is basically already magic, and we're adding an extra layer
For the
on top of
listeners,
that.
he's holding a cell phone.
I'm holding my smartphone, and now we're adding an extra layer of magic on top of that, where I can now communicate to a black box AI, and it is generating anything I want with no control, with me having little control outside of the prompt.
I also just think old and like unrefined technology has an like inherent level of creepiness, because if you ever go back and look at like old educational video games from the 90s, they were fucking terrifying,
Oh, yeah.
but by accident.
Yeah.
That wasn't the
'Cause
intent.
they didn't know any better.
Well, they were just limited by like graphical design, and there's just like an inherent eeriness to it. And so like LOAB is almost like a culmination of those like bad, I guess it's just extreme uncanny valley.
It's extreme uncanny valley, and here's the thing that we're gonna lean into real quick is the fact that LOAB was created by an artist, and I mean, she didn't expose what model of AI she was using to
I see what
generate
you're
all the
saying.
images. People I didn't find them, have talked about there being group chats where LOAB, if not was name dropped, then something akin to her concept was talked about as far back as April of 2022. So months in the making, they were potentially either trying to generate these images or refining whichever ones were the creepiest for what amounts to a viral marketing campaign to create either a very popular creepypasta, or some people have been suggesting that like this and the Will Smith spaghetti eating video were corporate plants as basically just ways to get not the entire world, anybody who came across them to go, oh wow, this AI thing looks neat, let me give it a shot. For the Will Smith thing, it was catching all of the general audiences, people who just go and watch their one summer blockbuster, recognize Will Smith, and they go, that was really weird. What was that? It was made by an AI, and then they go and they download ChatGPT and give it a shot. For LOAB and like these other more uncanny ones, it's definitely leaning onto like the creepier side of the internet. So it's like your podcasters, your TikTokers, who, I mean, I'm not saying they don't have a reason for AI, but a lot of them probably first heard of AI image generation through LOAB. Just because if you're not keeping up with the news and if you're not watching stuff consistently, it's just going to pop up in front of you via whatever media you're trying to take in. For me, I came across AI art image generation outside of those other things through LOAB. This was the first time I ever heard like, oh, I can access this by myself. It's not like
I had never heard of LOAB before today.
you didn't need to be. Like that's
Yeah.
the crazy part of how niche the internet's become.
Well, it is cool how it also is, like you said, this was created by an artist, and now that it's put out in the world,
It
and how you said it's always exists. That would be like if somebody made the first Conjuring movie, and like Bathsheba didn't exist, and now because the movie exists, now she's in every horror movie ever. It is weird how it's like self-serving.
If we're taking it as face value, and this wasn't like a creepypasta made for marketing purposes, an AI just seemingly created a monster, humans ran with that monster, right? And now that monster now just exists. It would be like if Frankenstein wasn't written by anybody. It would be the equivalent of if the manuscript of Frankenstein just landed in front of somebody, and now Frankenstein has always been there, right? Like Frankenstein is onto itself, is basically what it boils down to. LOAB is onto herself. She has created herself. Again, if we're following that through line, and now exists on the internet, seemingly for the foreseeable future, right? You're not erasing the chupacabra or Bigfoot from the internet. Anytime a large language model is going to be asked about LOAB, it's going to know exactly where to pull it from, what it's supposed to look like.
A huge database
to pull from. So like now it's basically just a permanent fixture of every AI model. And again, as not only an art experiment, but as a technology experiment, I find it way more interesting. Because think about how many images you guys have generated. All of us have generated, right? And we basically generate them for fun, and then they end up in a trash bin or a folder, never to be seen again, right? Maybe not even uploaded online. This is somebody taking very, very early novel technologies and unironically leaving a permanent mark on them for the foreseeable future. Like this woman now has just created a digital entity that exists in every AI model moving forward. And that's interesting to me at the very least. And she could have only done that because it was September of 2022, before everybody had access to Sora in their pocket. You know, it's less impressive now as it was back 3 years ago.
It's fucking cool. I don't know. I got nothing to say.
Yeah, I think this was a really cool crypto.
Yeah. Conceptually, it's the most fascinating.
I'm glad you guys like this one a lot because I have been really, really enjoying looking at the more contemporary side of these mysteries. And
the thing that I think is the coolest about it is that it does objectively exist. So it's different from like the Bigfoot where it's like, all these stories. LOAB does exist. It's the cryptid
of it. Is it a fucking monster? I don't know. But
or did somebody like go, I'm going to write a creepy story, and now that creepy story exists, but that doesn't mean that it has a creepy element
to it. People like, is she a fucking digital glitch deity that has always existed and fed off of our GPU energy? Probably not. but the fact that this creature has now taken form in the human subconscious, or sorry, the collective unconscious, excuse me, and that is now being fed into all of our AIs.
She objectively exists.
She's real. She's as real as like not Pennywise the clown, because Pennywise the clown isn't real, right? But I can rationalize Pennywise the clown existing in the same way that LOAB now exists. But yeah, this was an absolutely stellar fucking episode. I loved the concept, and I loved getting to explore AI, just because everyone's constantly hearing this hype cycle around it and where it could potentially lead, and how it's going to revolutionize all of our lives. But the thing we never realize with novel technologies like this is how it's going to affect society. It's 100%. How is it going to affect our culture? You know, how are we going to start sharing stories? How are we going to start sharing images and memes and all that fun stuff?
No, I'm saying memes is always the answer. It's how we've always shared things.
It's just how
the answer, no matter where in human history you go, it's memes. I'm not even joking. That's what memes are. Memes are just shared information from the human. Yeah. Like obviously in the modern lexicon, it means like silly cat images and shit like that.
You mean to tell me that A. Nasir's note is a meme?
Whose?
A. Nasir's complaint.
Oh, fucking copper.
The copper.
God damn.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the earliest.
You
memes,
said that
really.
like Adam and I both knew somebody that we needed to deal with in real life. Like who the fuck? I don't know anybody.
I mean, it's like
the
original.
We know.
Now I know who it. I didn't. I've only read it, so I've never heard the name pronounced. But and as soon as you said it, I was like, oh.
I pronounced it correctly.
I'm sure you did. I just didn't know.
We're gonna need to get a collab.
If not, you can kick Linda off the show. There'll be a new guest.
We're gonna need a collab between him and LOAB. Now that she's always
LOAB
existed.
and In Nasir.
Yeah, dude. Think about it.
It's fun.
An AI large language model coming into existence in 2025, and some guy in the year minus 3000 is chipping away at a tablet, and suddenly LOAB's face forms on it.
That'd be terrifying.
What the fuck? No, yeah. I hope all of you guys enjoyed exploring AI as deeply as we had. I'm looking forward to diving into a couple more of these more technologically oriented mysteries, because there's a shocking amount, obviously online, but just in existence, period, that don't necessarily have to do with ghosts or aliens or cryptids at all, but are still haunting nonetheless. Name drop. If you like this episode, leave us 5 stars or give us a thumbs up. Reach us at ourhauntednostalgia@gmail.com. We'll be returning next month, and I wanted to thank for recommending LOAB as our mystery of this month. Yeah. Cool. So thank you, everybody. I can't wait to see you all next month.